Hello and welcome. As you can probably see, this is towards the end of the Spider-Man game. And it seemed appropriate to what I was talking about. At this point in the game, they're searching for a cure for this Devil's Breath virus that's been released in the city, and it seems to mirror the topic and really what's going on in the world nowadays. So, first off, and I'll make it clear, I'm not entirely sure what I should be calling this virus. It's come out in the last week or so that terminologies that refer to the location of where it started, such as Wuhan or Chinese, are now deemed racist. I personally think it's kind of a stretch of the logic. But I do respect that other people may not be comfortable with that terminology. I had been calling it the coronavirus, and I don't know if there's any reason to think that that terminology might be offensive. As such, and all the numbering and stuff of it that has been going on is just too confusing. The COVID and stuff like that, I find that very confusing. So pretty much from this point on, I'm going to be referring to it as the virus. And yeah, that should cover my patootie, as it were. So what started this was there was a comment on Twitter that I responded to. And to my surprise, now usually if a good response for me is like, I'll get maybe 100 or so people responding to my Twitter comment. As of last check, there was nearly 1,600 people had liked my comment, and I had numerous, and I mean numerous, responses to it. Some negative, some positive. Everyone expressing their own views. So let me explain kind of the tweet. So the original tweet that I respond to was someone basically speaking badly of our healthcare system, and really in turn, it's kind of supposed to be a little funny thing to illustrate just, how horrible American healthcare system is, and just how we've kind of dropped the ball on it, and how great other countries' healthcare systems are, and they seem to refer specifically to the virus. Or the tweet did refer specifically to the virus and the reaction of it. So my response was to basically, list the number of deaths in America and compare them to countries in Europe. Because the original tweet had been saying that European countries have a better healthcare system. Now, I will be the first to admit that the data I looked at originally was a bit out of date, and indeed, the numbers I listed were incorrect at the time, although I didn't know it when I looked up the information. So kind of my bad, and I've had to explain to people, I screwed up there. But what I find interesting is that for whatever reason, this resonated with people, whether they liked it or whether they didn't like my comment. A lot of people, it resonated with them. So I find that interesting. And so what's an interesting side effect? This wasn't my initial intent. Like I said, I was, I'm not going to get into discussion about the relative healthcare systems. I personally feel that the current American healthcare system is quite good. Now, I understand. I know that there are problems with it, but the other healthcare that most people, or that a lot of people seem to favor, is the universal healthcare, which I personally think there are a lot of problems with that too. And I think there is, to a certain degree, a give or take in that regard. And really, it kind of boils down to less. It boils down to more both political and economic reasons for each healthcare system. And, I don't really want to spend this entire time discussing those different reasons and different views, because this is supposed to be about the virus. But let's just say that my initial response was, I was a little upset at people being so disrespectful to a healthcare system that I personally believe is quite good. My grandmother, who died a few years ago, she had spent several years being very, very sick with terminal cancer before she died, and the healthcare system was very good for her. So I admit there is a certain degree of personal, belief in that for me. And, I've heard people saying good, having similar good experiences with universal healthcare. So, it is possible to, think that both types of healthcare have their advantages and disadvantages, and so on. But I think what my tweet accomplished that I didn't realize it would be accomplishing was that it started a lot of conversations. Not just between me and people responding to me, but a lot of people started to respond amongst themselves. And suddenly, we're having dialogues on Twitter about the virus and the different points of view of people on one side or another. And I'm actually kind of amazed that a lot of people who initially responded negatively to me, after talking with them for, a few minutes, I actually got some really civil responses, and even them saying, okay, that does make a lot of sense. I think my viewpoint is correct, but, I understand why you hold this view that you currently hold. Which is not something I normally see on Twitter. So, I'm actually very impressed that we're able to suddenly sit down and have this conversation with people. And I think ultimately the reason why it evoked so much conversation and so many people liking my tweet was an ultimate good, because it's allowed for these conversations to happen and people to realize that there are more than one viewpoint, more than one way of looking at things, and that people who feel differently aren't just merely, wrong or evil or bad, but that they merely have a different perspective. And I think that's a conversation, especially in a time of crisis, as we have with this virus, that people need to be having, because ultimately, we need to rely on each other in times of crisis. We need to rely on our neighbors. We need to rely on, friends. We need to rely on complete strangers to help us out when we need help. And I think that at least for me, that was really the most important takeaway from all of this. I'm going to end just basically presenting a few viewpoints on the virus and really what people can and should do. So at the moment, it's actually in a very scary phase. School's been shut down where I'm at till the end of the month, as it has been in a lot of places, but I believe it's a local government decision, meaning that different states and even different areas within states can make the choice whether to close the schools or not. And so that's been made. For the first time, pretty much ever, my church has issued a worldwide decree that all church is canceled, and all church activities, not just church itself, are canceled until further notice, which has never happened before ever. Which makes it even more scary for me, actually. When you have something unprecedented, it's always a little nerve-wracking. And the advice has been given: just avoid gatherings of 10 people or so. Take precautions in your home. Basically, just do sensible things. Now, one of the things I've been saying in these tweets and in other places is that panic is not a good thing, and I do firmly believe that panicking, especially in a crisis situation, is bad. And we're starting to see that with supermarkets, other stores running out of things. The almost absurd overstocking of paper by people who are, shall we say, a bit nervous by this virus. And I think, getting close to water there. And I think part of it is kind of an instinctive response. We want to do something, but there's really not much, outside of basic precautions, there's not much we can do. So going to the store and stocking up on supplies seems like, it makes us feel better. It seems like an active thing to be doing while this crisis is going on around us. And yeah, I think that's led to a lot of people just overstocking and buying more than one things, which can hurt, it can hurt anybody who really needs those items. I live in a fairly isolated area. We haven't had a case anywhere near me. We had only one case in the state I live in. So that's a good thing, but I was still nervous going to the grocery store. We had, ironically, run out of toilet paper, and I was like, okay, we'll not be able to get any more. But, thankfully, yeah, didn't have as many as it usually had, it wasn't completely out either. So, just fulfilling my basic needs of just buying toilet paper in a timely fashion, I was able to do. And that's, I think that speaks highly of the people in the area that I'm at, that people, well, one, help each other, which I think is vital at this time during crisis. If you know someone who needs help, do what you can to help them. And, if you're just going to come back and, if you just let them know also that, hey, I'm here for you, I can help you out, then I think that will help really everyone get through the crisis to be able to, survive it. And, this is my takeaway. I think America's actually in a better position than a lot of people say, so we should avoid panicking about all this situation, during the panic buying. But also we should take sensible precautions, and we should, we should recognize that it is a crisis. It is kind of a case of moderation in this regard. We can't panic, but we also should take something seriously. And I think we can find there's a fine line between, I don't think it's even all that fine. Just be moderate in your views. Don't dismiss this as nothing, but also recognize that we're in a better position than people realize. And that, if we take sensible precautions, we can come out of this okay. Let basically the government do its job, let the private industry do its job, and just keep going and have faith. Help people around you where you can. And I think that is the biggest takeaway for this, is be moderate and help each other. And I think that is just the most important thing at this point. So that's my quick little video, my quick little take on this. Let's get to a really good vantage point. Look out over the beautiful yet disturbed city of New York. See it as a metaphor for our lives. Regardless, bad times come to all of us, and just having faith and being and persisting and just being kind to everyone else, and we'll get through it. So that's the video. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe if you like this. I will see you on the next video. Bye.